Perhaps you've seen it, maybe in a dream, a murky, forgotten land. A place where souls may mend your ailing mind. You will lose everything once branded, the symbol of the curse, an augur of darkness. Your past, your future, your very light. None will have meaning, and you won't even care. By then, you'll be something other than human. A thing that feeds on souls, a hollow. Long ago, in a walled-off land far to the north, a great king built a great kingdom. I believe they called it Drang Lake. Perhaps you're familiar. No, how could you be? But one day, you will stand before its decrepit gate without really knowing why. Like a moth drawn to a flame, your wings will burn in anguish, time after time. For that is your fate, the fate of the cursed.
What seems to be the ruckus?
Oh my, your face. The face of the curse.
It's an undead. An undead has come to play. They all end up here. All the ones like you. You spoke to that kind old dear, didn't you?
You're finished. You'll go hollow. Yes, you'll become one of them.
Hollows prey upon men, feast upon their souls. This is the fate of the cursed.
What is your name? At least you know your own name. Here's your reward for sharing. It's a human effigy.
Take a closer look.
Who do you think it's supposed to be?
Think back, deep into your past. Yes, it's an effigy of you. All people come here for the same reason, to break the curse.
You're no different, I should think. Doesn't stand a chance.
Well, you never know. Go through the door and trot along to the kingdom.
But remember, hold on to your souls. They're all that keep you from going hollow. Oh, I'll fool you no longer. You lose your souls. All of them. Over and over again.
What's going on, guys? Evan the Dark Souls 2 enthusiast here, bringing another Dark Souls 2 gameplay commentary. This is going to be the first post-commentary I've done in a long time. The last post-commentary series I was doing was actually over Demon Souls, and that series never got finished, although I believe one day I will go back and finish it. I have all the footage still, I just never got around completing it due to life changes. There's been a lot of life changes for me in probably the last couple of months. Probably in the last year, I've had more life changes than I'd ever had any other time in my life. So this commentary is not really going to focus on that, though. I'll give a quick channel update for some of the old-time channel veterans who have been patiently awaiting the return of the Dark Souls stuff, and so Dark Souls 2 seemed like the perfect time to bring that series back. So I will do some channel updates, but first let me give you guys an outline of exactly what we're going to be talking about in the 30-ish so minutes we have here. So I'd like to talk a little bit about where I am with Dark Souls 2 as a game, what the commentary schedule is going to look like, why the commentaries haven't been coming out for this game already, because we're, 7-8 days in, probably at the time of the upload, and things like that. So I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with my uploads, what are my plans for this game. Then I want to talk about my first impressions of Dark Souls 2, and by first impressions I don't mean like first 8 hours. First impressions would probably be 50-ish hours at this point. I've been binge playing this game, so I wanted to kind of share my thoughts as someone who's completed the game and just as a general overview of how they feel about it as it compares to Dark Souls 1. You know, some strengths, some concerns, things like that. Some things I've been hearing that I haven't personally experienced. You know, this, that, and the other thing. So, you know, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some changes and things like that. And lastly, I'd like to talk about this character, which I'm planning to do a complete run-through of. And so, let's get started right back at the beginning, which is the introduction. So, ultimately, I've been doing a lot of live com stuff because this channel had never attempted live commentary, and I'm glad I attempted to do it. I don't think my live commentary style or stuff is as quality as my post-game commentary. I think I get a better message delivered here. I think I speak more clearly. I think it's overall better, but at the same time, there's something appealing and something kind of special about live because it's just got that raw feel to it. So I had thought about doing this series live because I did Dark Souls 1 all post. I think, well, maybe we'll do Dark Souls 2 live. That'd be fascinating. Then I decided that it's a Souls game, I should probably give it my best, and I can do the live commentary stuff for games like Dota, where I don't offer a lot of post-game analysis anyway. I just kind of play a match of Dota, and I play a match of Dota. So that's kind of what's going on with why there hasn't really been a huge upload on the game so far. But one thing I want to talk about where I am with my life right now, because some people in the chat are interested in that. I've been getting a lot of messages on YouTube, like, where are you? What's going on? We know you're out there. So yeah, absolutely. Still a huge Souls fan, still playing the Souls games, actually. But ultimately, you know, I took on a new job less than a year ago where I moved out to South Dakota, which was very far away from my original place of residence of Ohio. And as a result, I was kind of meeting new people and getting new friends and getting to know the whole environment of, you know, my first professional full-time job. I've worked more part-time jobs in my lifetime than I can count, and, you know, I have a master's degree in education. So, you know, I've been doing things, guys. I haven't just been, you know, vegetating, but definitely have sort of felt the pressure of making time for friends, making time for work, learning a new job. I work at a university. I work in university housing, to be more specific. So here at my job, there's been a lot of changes and a lot of unsettlement within the hierarchy of the department. Essentially, you know, I have not been supervised by the same person for more than 3 months at a time because my supervisors keep getting transferred or moved, and I've even moved. I've moved from one building to another, and for those of you that understand the higher education system in the United States, moving from one building to another is significant, and so I had to learn a whole new set of rules and regulations and a whole new set of processes for the new building and learn a new staff. I supervise 16 student staff members regularly and probably another 10 on and off, and I also supervise a graduate assistant who's working on getting their PhD. So there's just a lot of time I spend interacting with people, and not to mention, you know, friends I see outside of work, and I've been trying to get involved in some professional organizations to get to know people outside of my immediate community, you know, and that's all for sanity reasons. And not to mention while still trying to maintain a relationship with people back in Ohio. So ultimately what I'm saying is, you know, when you start a new job far away from home, it's a big commitment of your time and energy, and a lot of people have to do that these days, at least in the States, for their career with the way the economy is, you know, and when you're in a niche field like me, you kind of have to move where the niche job is, and so I did. So that's where I've been with my life right now, and I could have made time for commentaries realistically, but sometimes it's just not a priority, and making gameplay commentaries just wasn't a priority. Getting my life on track was more of a priority. So I put commentaries up when I had the time and when I had the chance, but I didn't really make a point of it to upload them routinely. And I'm not sure I'm at the point in my life where I'm ready to do like a 5-day-a-week upload schedule. I thought about what that would look like, and I know I have the material to do it. I've got a lot of footage saved on the hard drive right now that I've been stockpiling for my quote-unquote triumphant return to the YouTubes. But That was supposed to be the Demon Souls series, and that kind of fell through a bit due to partly my own disinterest in the game. I mean, there wasn't a huge community online anymore, and it definitely had good legacy playthrough value, but beyond that, I just, I like the game. I think Demon Souls is the original and one of the most amazing entries in the Soul series, but I have yet to pick a definitive favorite of the Soul series. I just know that I've spent the most time with Dark Souls, the original, so that's kind of where the channel is. I would expect more routine uploads, definitely for Dark Souls 2, because there's a lot to say about this game, and I have a lot of feelings, particularly after PvPing a little bit. There's some things I like and really don't like, but sometimes I feel like I'm having knee-jerk reactions, because it's funny because when you binge play a game, you learn a lot about it, and you're informed, and you're not just sort of talking out your ass, as they say, but at the same time, there is definitely a snap reaction. Like, even if you play a game for 50 hours, if you play that 50 hours in 4 days, you've played so much of the game that you probably haven't taken the time to step back and objectively look at it. And that's another reason I had been putting commentaries up right away, was because I wanted to sort of spend some time with the game and wanted to complete a character before I started commentary of a full playthrough of another character. So it's kind of what's going on with this series now that I'm sort of settled with my thoughts on Dark Souls 2 for the moment. There's still so much about this game that's unknown, and I'm sure as we learn more, it will completely change the way we and everyone perceives the game over time, because that's kind of how it works. Patches, game patches, how we feel, things like that completely change the game. And I can confirm there is broken equipment setups in PvP. I know they're broken because I've used them, and I'm still pretty awful at PvP at this point. I mean, I have a great fundamental course from previous Souls games, but the nuances of this game in particular, I'm not there yet. But there are setups that will just allow you to cheese your way through any PvP fight unless you're fighting someone who knows the cheese setup. And since most players basically invade with the intention of swinging whatever weapon they have at the time, you're going to win all your matches. And I've have the full Bell Covenant at max rank on a character and a lot of just random things. So I have a pretty good feel for what's busted in half on this game. I mean, admittedly, I haven't tried all the weapons, not even close to all the weapons, because I don't have the stats to wield very many weapons, because my first character was a caster with backup Moonlight Greatsword. So yes, I do have a character using the Moonlight Greatsword. I know there's been a lot of requests for me to put up footage of that, because the Moonlight Greatsword's sort of a fan favorite and a FromSoft favorite, so I'll try to get on that. But I wanted to start, at least for the first upload, with something a little fresher, and I thought nothing would be more fresh than a new character. So that's kind of where I am on that. Obviously, since this is Ego Xeno commentary style, eventually I will run out of things to say about the game for periods of time. When those moments occur, I'll start talking about life and, real talk. So there'll be real talk uploads. That's another thing that's going away. I know it's a mixed bag. Some people love the real talk. Some people hate the real talk. I enjoy the real talk, so I intend to continue doing it. I upload, and I think it's clear, since this is sort of the onset of a new series of what will likely be a lot of uploads, it's important to me to be realistic with everyone that watches these videos. I upload what I want. I upload when I want. And no, I don't do this professionally for a living. This is just a hobby. It's a great one. I love the YouTube community, so that's where I am with that. So, admittedly, I don't feel a lot of pressure anymore to get uploads up on the channel. I used to feel a lot of pressure when I first started this channel, like, you gotta upload routinely and build it up. Now it's more of a casual thing. I upload when I want, and people want to watch when they want. It's a no-stress thing. I'm in a high-stress profession. I have a high-stress job. That's not what I need. I don't need any more stress in my life. So that's kind of where I am with that. So anyway, got a little bit of time left in the video, so I want to go ahead and hop into some actual Dark Souls stuff, because most people probably came here to talk about some actual Dark Souls. So let's jump on that. So I won't have time to elaborate on all these topics. I mean, you could easily do probably a 4-hour plus upload for all these topics if you wanted to get super in depth, but some changes I want to make players that don't own the game yet, make them aware of some things that I think, it's not getting a lot of attention, some of the things I've observed, and I think it should. So you can respec a character now, and what that means is you can respecialize, you can redistribute your stat points. Essentially, you can reset your character level, and you can do that, pretty liberally. There is a cost associated with it. You have to use an item, and there is a finite quantity of them within the game, but there's quite a few. So if you have to respec your character 7 or 8 times in one new game session, you're doing it wrong. So that's definitely a thing. So don't be too scared. In past games, usually everyone had to scrap their first character if they started at launch because it would wind up being a complete botch character of you skilling random things to test things and just not being at all optimized for PvP or PvE. And as a result, now that'll be good. Being able to respec your first character to something useful is pretty awesome. I also think it'll maybe add some life to the PvP community that won't involve the use of mega mules and soul glitching and things like that, because in previous installments, very few players legitimately leveled all their characters for PvP. Now, I was one of those people. That's when it took me a long time to get new PvP videos out, as I had to go through the painstaking process of beating Dark Souls 50 plus time to level all these PvP characters and get all your miracles and stuff like that from shop vendors. And that was fine. That was fine, but I look forward to the new system being able to respec when I need to and things like that. So that's kind of where I am with that. The next big thing is soul memory, and I'm not a huge fan of it, but the jury's still out on how well it works and doesn't work. It's really hard to say definitively how badly it will hurt or aid online play. But basically the premise of soul memory is the game doesn't look at your soul level for invasions. It does, but that's not the only thing it looks at. Now for invasions, summoning, and PvP, my understanding is, or at least from what it looks like right now from preliminary information, is that it looks at all the souls collected on the character at any point. So it's not just your soul level, it's how many souls do you have in your weapons, how many souls do you have, period. Things like that. How many souls have you spent? And as a result, the bracket's a little harder to control. In past Souls games, typically the community would ultimately decide on I don't want to say arbitrarily selected number, but a number that was selected to optimize, quote-unquote, build diversity and things like that. And that's a polarized topic of the community. A lot of people feel like the PvP levels were artificial and garbage. Other people felt like they should have been lower. Some people thought they should have been higher, and some people thought they never should have existed. In short, in this game, until we know more about soul memory, it's going to be really difficult to determine if there will be a soul range. And if there will be a soul range, what will it be? How will we orchestrate it? How will we administer it? Because theoretically, I mean, if that is true, and FromSoft themselves have suggested that is a huge factor in invasions, is soul memory as opposed to just soul level. So when I win PvP, I gain souls. Even if I don't use them to level, I don't have the option but to gain souls. So on a long enough timeline, I could actually PvP my way out of being able to PvP, which that's just stupid. That's moronic design. If that's the case, we don't know if there's a control for that. We don't know if, say for example, maybe it doesn't look at your invasion souls or your dueling souls that you've gathered in your soul memory calculation. But if that's true, I'm just going to go PvP a bunch of scrubs and get massive souls and then go twink out and troll new level players. And that's kind of the point of soul memories, to try to maintain balance and even matchups. And I got to be honest with you, I think that's stupid. The whole twink invasion thing, it's happened to me. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, I mean, if you're playing Dark Souls 1 and you're in the Undead Burg, in human form, walking through the chapel, there is some probability you might get invaded by someone who has their +5 lightning rapier, and they might backstab / peck you to death with their Hornet's rings and their ring of favor and protection. And we've all been there, and I think that FromSoft's soul memory system, just to me, first impressions, feels like a knee-jerk reaction to a need to address that problem. And I never really considered it a new problem. I mean, I played a ton of Dark Souls, and that didn't happen to me all that often. And by the time it was happening to me more frequently, I was better at the game. So I guess I just don't understand the issue. People seem to want to be able to co-op. People seem to want to be able to summon phantoms, want to play with their friends. People want all the things that makes the game easier. But people don't seem to want the thing that makes the game harder. Because if you just want a raw Dark Souls experience without the influence of other players, pull the Ethernet cord out. It's not that hard. Sign off a PSN. Players want the option to summon phantoms to help them. They want a co-op, but they don't want to face the actual PvP. And to me, that's crummy. I think that it's all part of the Souls experience. Getting invaded and killed at inconvenient times, that's just part of it, and if you really can't deal with it right then, they did put methods in this game to try to prevent prevent invasions. You can burn resources and stuff to prevent invasions and things like that. So it's just all things to think about. Quick aside here, you'll see I'm about to join this covenant. If you're a new player, do not join this covenant. It makes the enemies in the game harder, and the rewards are, by and large, pretty crappy and useless, and you'll replace them with item drops in the game. I just joined them here for giggles. I won't actually be staying in this covenant. I thought about staying in long enough to unlock the covenant rewards, then getting out. Then I thought about doing a whole playthrough in the Covenant, and I've just decided I'm not going to be in the Covenant. Not for the first playthrough. I'd rather represent a more original version of Dark Souls 2. So, with that aside, don't join that Covenant. I won't be staying in that Covenant. However, if you want more of a challenge, that is an option. I assume one day I will be joining that Covenant, but not until after I do my New Game Plus playthrough. Okay, so that's this, that, and the other. That's my big concern right now. Personally, my biggest criticism is of Soul Memory, but it's tentative because we don't know exactly how it works. But from the information I've seen that FromSoft has not elaborated on, they've just kind of dropped it out in front of me, and what the community testing has shown is I think it's going to be hellish for the PvP community. I really do. And admittedly, the longevity in these games comes from the PvP. I mean, right now we all have so much to do in the PvE world of the game, so many challenges we can do, and so many achievements to attempt, things like that, trophies. There's really no rush. But on the flip side, I think if the Soul Memory remains as I understand it, the brackets and ranges are going to be so screwed up, it's going to be so hard to have organized Dark Souls play, so hard to have effective random PvP, things like that. And I think that's all intricate to the life cycle of the Souls game. Maybe early on, not so much. Later on, I think it's absolutely paramount. So that's just something to think about. I like the Covenant system in this one. Some other things new players should know is you can leave the Covenants. I mean, that's a thing. Like, you can leave the Covenant and you won't lose your Covenant rank. There's really no downside to doing so. So feel free to swap between them, try them out, mess around. That's all good. They're trying to push Covenants a little harder in this game. Although on the flip side, it seems like some of the decisions have made the PvP/PvE elements really hard. And some of the requirements in some of these Covenants are really steep. Like the Blue Sentinels Covenant, which is basically Dark Moon, more or less. We're talking like, man, it's honestly not really the Dark Sentinels. It's not really the Dark Moon Covenant from Dark Souls 1, but it's kind of akin to it. Anyway, you need 500 successful invasions with that. That's a lot of invasions to max out a Covenant. And same with the new Dark Wraith Covenant. It's a lot of invasions. It's 500 in order to get what you need. So, and Bell Covenant is 100 invasions. It's just really steep requirements for your Covenant rewards. And with the way matchmaking's working right now, for most players, it can be challenging to max out these Covenants. And I think that's a bummer. I think that the reward should have been set a little lower. And I love PvP. I'm willing to PvP all day. I did, but I feel like for the rewards you're getting, most of which are replaceable in other means than New Game Plus Plus, because in this game, new drops will occur in New Game Plus and New Game Plus Plus even. Like, there will be drops that are specific to those modes you can't get in your first playthrough without burning bonfire aesthetics and taking great means like that. And we'll elaborate on those mechanics in future uploads, because this commentary is drawing a little closer to an end, and I don't want to get myself talking about too many topics at once. But something new players should know is you absolutely can leave a Covenant and you don't have a huge loss there. You can respec your character, so feel free to tinker around and level and play with different stats. The PvP range at this point is undecided by the community. I've been watching some of the popular streamers and watching some of the popular YouTubers, and I've been talking to some of the people I used to PvP with semi-competitively back when I was really into the Souls. And I gotta say, the community seems to be divided between keeping it between the 120, 130 range, or jumping all the way to 150. And of course, there's people that argue that there's a happy medium between the two. Whatever. Choosing between the two large camps, I would say that I fall more into the 150 bracket guy. I think you could do PvP builds within the 120 to 130 range, but I think you'd actually get greater build diversity around the 150s. Now, some people argue this is going to lead to, no, that's silly because all the classes will be, carbon copies of each other. We'll have the giant mask fathers again. I don't think so. I think there's enough stats in this game that leveling system's a little more complicated in that you will get more of a variety at 150. I think at 120 is where you're going to lose all variety. Because when, then putting some trial builds into my Excel spreadsheet, I've come to the conclusion that at 120 to 130, most players, to build efficiently, are going to wind up hitting all the first breakpoints on the major stats, and I'll go over breakpoints and things like that in another upload, but this is all basic Dark Souls character creation stuff. effective character creation. So that's basically enough to hit all the breakpoints, then to get one weapon type. And that's essentially it. And I think that's what most players will be doing. You take one major stat, then you just get all your breakpoints, and I think that will be silly. I think that will be a really mediocre way to PvP. So hopefully the 150 crowd wins out, or at least a 140. You know, there's, like I said, there's middle grounds here, but I'd say we just go all the way to 150, because even if everybody tries to build a all the characters thing, the characters that specialize, those extra points will really let them push that build really far. So we'll see what happens. I'm obviously not the only authority on the subject. I'm not really an authority at all, so we'll see what happens. But it is something that I've got my eye on. I'm trolling all the forums. Not trolling, but I definitely watch all the forums and continually point out to people things they don't want to hear. So I guess I'm kind of a troll, but I'm not trying to spark violence on forums, so I guess maybe I'm not a troll. Anyway, moving back to matters that are actually relevant to the discussion. You know, I'll take a little bit of time to talk about this in the first upload. The weapon reinforcement system in Dark Souls 2 is very different. You can upgrade your catalyst, and if you are a sorcerer, please, please, please upgrade your catalyst. It will make, or sorcerer's stick, it will make all the difference on this game. In addition, you can actually put weapon enchantments on special weapons. So, like, to compare it to Dark Souls 1, like, I can have a lightning long blade, then put crystal magic weapon on it. I can give any weapon any elemental infusion in just one of. So, for example, I can do, like, this is Dark Souls 1, I could take a Black Knight Great Axe and make it a lightning Black Knight Great Axe. Stuff like that. You can make boss weapons, have infusions. Anything that can be upgraded by Tantanite can be made elemental. So I don't fully, I'd be lying if I said I completely understood the upgrade system, because I'm not sure exactly what can be what. But I will say, in a nutshell, that, oh, that was such a heartbreak right there. He probably has like 30 HP. But in a nutshell, you can start mixing and matching a lot of things. Like, you can definitely enchant legendary weapons. Like, you can put crystal magic weapon on your Moonlight Greatsword and stuff like that. So there's a lot of weird changes in this game, and weapon reinforcements the same way. Titanite slabs are not nearly as rare as they used to be. So basically, another thing to keep in mind is fire and lightning, unlike Dark Souls 1, are not static numbers. By static, I mean they're non-scaling. You know, it's just a set number of damage. That's not a thing anymore. Now, fire scales off faith and intelligence, and lightning scales off faith. And magic will scale off of your intelligence. So there's now scaling. The only non-scaling stat is a raw weapon, and I've never made a raw weapon on Dark Souls 2. I don't know if it's any good or not. I'm sure in the right circumstances it is, but you know, I can't say I recommend it. If it's your first character and you're looking to get into this game and not be too overly challenged, I would definitely recommend. You know, I think quality builds look really good to me. I've not personally played one, but having looked at the quality weapons and the availability of quality weapons, I would definitely play like either an all-strength build or quality weapon build. Dexterity is not the powerhouse it was in Dark Souls 1. I think in Dark Souls 1, objectively speaking, Pyromancer, Dexterity Ninja was probably the best class for PvE and extremely strong class for PvP. I don't think that's a thing anymore. I think Dexterity is probably about as good as Strength, maybe a little under. So either gouge out Strength on your first build or do a quality build, which is an even split between Strength and Dexterity, and you should have a good time and not be extremely challenged. If you're going to do magic, I think Faith is much stronger than Sorceries, and not only that, but Faith is definitely a stronger starting character. So those are some things to think about as you jump into this game. Some other things to think about is be more flexible than you were in past games. Some of the areas in this game are deliberately designed to force you to fight at close range or from range. So even if you are a pure caster, please, I encourage all players to be flexible in what they do. If you're the strength bandit, you don't believe in any of the magics, carry a bow, like even if it's a crappy short bow, because being able to arrow down enemies is huge. Pyromancy now scales with either faith or intelligence, so there's no more just base pyro. Now you actually have to invest in magic to use pyromancy effectively. Last thing I'll say for new players, and one of my favorite things about this game so far, is that the new spells are flashy and exciting. I think overall spellcasting has received a huge buff. When I saw that the mechanics of spellcasting had not changed, I was very, very concerned. I was kind of afraid we were going to be in another really crappy magic system, because I thought Demon Souls and Dark Souls both had just abysmal magic systems. And I think this has a huge step forward in the magic world, and there's a lot of things you can talk about with the new magic system that we'll get to in another upload, but I definitely recommend magic. It's flashy, it's strong, and it's very viable for your starting character build, but the thing I would warn people is intelligence and stuff, it doesn't really take off until a little later in the game. It's a very good early game because of obviously the ranged advantage that sword characters won't have, but I think anyone that welcomes the use of a bow on their builds won't find magic to be all that helpful until later in the game when you get the equipment to make it really worth your while. Okay, one last thing before I wrap up this commentary, and I will talk more about this in another video, but new players need to know this. Please, please, please be aware, enemies will stop respawning in this Dark Souls. I don't know the exact range, I believe it's roughly 15, but once you kill an enemy that respawns at a bonfire 15 times, kill all the area enemies and hit a bonfire, you're using one of your 15 count. So you cannot farm indefinitely, eventually the enemies will stop spawning. So please, please, please keep that in mind. Also be aware, if there is a particular item set or armor set you really want, unless you're going to wait for New Game Plus for it, there's a very finite amount of time in which you can get, basically there's a finite number of chances to get any armor or any weapon that drops from a mob per playthrough. And so there are certain sets I really wanted, so I deliberately tried my hardest not to kill enemies. I killed enemies as let me make this more complicated than it is. Essentially, I killed enemies I've killed as few enemies as possible in the chosen area until I had a silver serpent ring, a gold serpent ring to increase the item drop chance and other items. Basically, in a nutshell, if there's an item set you really want or an item you want, period, try not to kill the mobs at the bonfire too often. Try not to respawn them too much until you have at least sort of, as I call it, introductory level item find, which is a gold serpent ring and a jester's cap or a traveling hood. And I'll make other videos sort of detailing how to find the items you want. But I'm just saying that please keep in mind that it is a finite resource until you enter the next new game cycle, and then it's a finite resource again. So that's something to keep in mind. I think it's probably the poorest development choice they've made in this Souls game. It has not affected me, well, next to Soul Memory, but Soul Memory, like I said, we don't know how bad it is or isn't completely. I assume it's very bad. But for other things, like, as I was saying, for the item drops enemy respawn, considering how minimally impactful gear is in this game, I feel like all they really did by nerfing the respawn was just completely jack over completionists. So if I'm trying to make my first Mega Mule character where I'm not going to go download someone's hex edited Mega Mule, I'm going to play my own Mega Mule, and I'm going to go find all the armor sets and get all the things, like, I gotta tell you guys, I think this limited enemy respawn thing is moronic. There are mechanics you can use to get the enemies respawning again, it's just none of them are really practical. The whole enemies don't spawn anymore, I find that impractical. There are arguments for it. I mean, it keeps people from power leveling their way past the difficulty, but that's what I call artificial difficulty. In the past, I think Souls games were challenging even if you power leveled your character, because to a point the soul levels just didn't do a whole lot for you. But I mean, obviously grinding a bunch of souls is always helpful, and I just don't think that's something you need to nerf. I mean, people want to power level. I think that's all kind of part of the fun of having a game with character growth based on an EXP system, or souls in this case. Is, I think players should have the opportunity to level those things that they want to and grind out the gear they want, and I don't think there's any reason to artificially stop the grind. And people you don't really have to grind in a Souls game anyway, and I guess my thought is why put an artificial stop to something that isn't a problem? I think the positives of Dark Souls 2 are a lot of innovation in a nutshell, and the downside in a nutshell is that Dark Souls 2 answered a lot of questions and answered a lot of problems that no one ever asked, i.e. the PvP twinking, not that big of a concern, honestly, not for the community as a whole, and I do engage with the community. Same with the enemies respawning, the power leveling. It's an answer to a question no one asked. But anyway, we're approaching the end of this commentary, so I appreciate everyone's attention. I hope you're enjoying this series. Please, since the series is new, I'm in desperate need of feedback, so share your feedback with me. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me what you want to see. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you all next time.